Rain hammered against the pavement like bullets as Maya Torres stumbled out of Chicago General Hospital's emergency entrance, her vision blurred by a toxic combination of tears, exhaustion, and the kind of despair that made breathing feel like work. 16 hours. She'd been on her feet for 16 straight hours, performing a surgery that had saved a teenager's life, delivering news to 3 different families about their loved ones, and somehow still finding time to check on her mother in the oncology ward upstairs. Dr. Maya Torres, 28 years old, third-year surgical resident, running on coffee and willpower, and the desperate hope that somehow, some way, things would get better. Then Dr. Harrison had called her into his office. "Maya, sit down," he'd said, his kind face grave. "I got the results from your mother's latest scans." She'd known from his expression, had known before he said the words that would shatter what remained of her carefully constructed world. "The cancer has metastasized. Without immediate intervention, without the experimental treatment we discussed, your mother has less than 6 months to live." The experimental treatment, Maya had repeated numbly. The one that costs $500,000 for the full course. "I'm sorry, Maya. I know that's an impossible amount, but it's her only chance." $500,000. Maya made $65,000 a year as a resident, most of which went to student loans and her mother's current medical bills. She had $17,000 in savings, a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and absolutely no way to come up with $500,000. Now, standing in the rain outside the hospital, her scrubs soaked through, her phone dead from the long shift, Maya felt the last threads of her composure unraveling. "Taxi!" she called desperately into the storm, her voice cracking. "Please, someone." Headlights cut through the rain. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up to the curb, and Maya didn't think, didn't look, just yanked open the rear door and collapsed into the back seat with a sob of relief. "Chicago General Hospital, please," she gasped. "I need to get back to—" "You're not my passenger." Maya's head snapped up. The voice was male, deep, with an edge of irritation that cut through her fog of misery. And the man speaking wasn't sitting in the driver's seat. He was right beside her in the back, and he was possibly the most striking man Maya had ever seen. Tall, she could tell even sitting down. Early 30s, with the kind of sharp, aristocratic features that belonged on magazine covers, high cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, dark hair styled with careless perfection. But it was his eyes that froze her, pale gray like storm clouds, currently fixed on her with an expression of cold annoyance that would have made most people apologize and flee immediately. Maya was too exhausted, too emotionally destroyed, too done with everything to care. "I'm sorry," she said flatly. "I thought this was my ride share. My phone's dead. I can't check. I've been working for 16 hours and I just—" Her voice broke. "I just need to get back to the hospital." She moved to exit the car, but a hand caught her wrist before she could open the door. Strong, warm, sending an unexpected jolt of awareness through her exhausted body. "Wait." Those storm-gray eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "You're soaking wet. You'll get pneumonia." "I'm a doctor," Maya said, trying to pull her wrist free. "I know the risks of hypothermia and respiratory infection. Now please let me go so I can—" "Lucas," the man interrupted, speaking to the driver. "Change of plans. Take us to Chicago General first." "Sir, your meeting with the board can wait 15 minutes. This woman clearly needs help more than they need my signature." Maya stared at him. "You don't have to do that. I can walk. It's only 6 blocks in a thunderstorm. Sit back, Dr. Torres." Maya Torres. She didn't know why she was giving him her full name. Didn't know why she was sinking back into the leather seat instead of insisting on leaving. Maybe because the warmth of the car was seeping into her cold bones. maybe because his hand was still loosely circling her wrist, and the touch was oddly grounding. "How did you know I'm a doctor?" The scrubs were a hint. The way you immediately diagnosed your own potential medical conditions was confirmation. He released her wrist slowly, and Maya felt the loss of that touch more than she wanted to admit. "You look like you've had the worst day of your life. Am I right?" Most people would have offered sympathy, would have made comforting sounds and platitudes about things getting better. This man just stated it like a fact, waiting for her response with the same clinical assessment she used on patients. Something about his directness, the complete lack of false sympathy, made Maya's carefully constructed walls crumble. "My mother is dying," she heard herself say. "Stage 4 cancer. There's an experimental treatment that could save her life, but it costs $500,000. I make $65,000 a year and have $17,000 in savings. So yes, worst day of my life. Mathematically, impossibly, catastrophically the worst day. Are you happy now?" She didn't know why she was telling a complete stranger this. Didn't know why tears were streaming down her face, mixing with the rainwater still dripping from her hair. Didn't know why this felt like the first time she'd been able to say the words out loud without breaking down completely. Instead of the pity she expected, the man smiled. A small, calculating smile that should have been a warning but somehow felt like interest. Like she'd just become the most fascinating thing in his carefully ordered world. "Interesting," he said. "I have a proposition for you, Dr. Torres." "I don't want your charity," Maya said immediately. "I may be desperate, but I'm not." "Not charity. Business. A mutually beneficial arrangement." He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and handed it to her. The cardstock was heavy, expensive, embossed with gold lettering that caught the streetlights. Adrian Blackwell, CEO, Blackwell Pharmaceuticals. Maya's breath caught. Blackwell Pharmaceuticals, the company developing the experimental treatment her mother needed. The company charging astronomical prices that made it accessible only to the ultra-wealthy. "Let me guess," she said bitterly, her brief moment of vulnerability hardening into anger. "You want to use my mother as a guinea pig for your trials, get free data while pretending to be generous?" "No." Adrian Blackwell leaned forward, and Maya caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more compelling, leather and rain and money. "I want to marry you." The car fell silent except for the rain drumming on the roof. Even Lucas the driver glanced up in the rearview mirror, his professional mask slipping into surprise. Maya stared at Adrian Blackwell, convinced she'd misheard. Convinced the exhaustion had finally broken something in her brain. "Excuse me?" "A marriage of convenience. 1 year. You need money for your mother's treatment." "I need a wife to secure my inheritance." Adrian pulled out his phone with the ease of someone used to having all the answers at his fingertips, showing her a legal document. "My grandfather's will stipulates that I must be married by my 35th birthday, which is in 3 weeks, or control of Blackwell Pharmaceuticals goes to my cousin Victoria, who will immediately sell the company to the highest bidder and dismantle everything my family built." "You're insane." "I'm practical. You need $500,000. I need a wife who won't expect love, romance, or forever. We're both solving problems." He swiped to another document. "Here's what I'm offering. Your mother receives the experimental treatment immediately, the best care Blackwell Pharmaceuticals can provide, administered by our top oncologists. You receive a salary of $1 million for 1 year of your time, paid in installments. After 12 months, we divorce quietly. You receive the final payment, and you never have to see me again. Clean, simple, mutually beneficial." Maya's mind raced. This was crazy. This was possibly the most insane thing anyone had ever proposed to her. But it was also, actually, the only solution she had. The only way to save her mother's life. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You're a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. You could have any woman in Chicago, probably any woman in the country. Why would you propose marriage to a broke resident you just met? Because you got into the wrong car at exactly the right moment. Adrian's eyes held hers, and Maya saw something flicker in their depths. Calculation, yes, but also something else. Something almost like recognition. Call it fate. Call it convenience. I don't particularly care. But I saw something in you just now. Someone who doesn't give up even when the math is impossible. Someone who fights. That's the kind of wife I need, even if it's only for show. This is insane, Maya repeated, but her voice lacked conviction. You already said that. Do you have a better option? Maya thought of her mother's frail hand in hers that morning, the resignation in her eyes when Dr. Harrison had delivered the prognosis. Thought of the mounting medical bills, the student loans, the impossible mathematics that never, ever added up, no matter how many times she ran the numbers. 1 year. 1 year of pretending to be married to a stranger in exchange for her mother's life. What exactly would this marriage entail? She asked carefully. You would move into my penthouse. We would appear together at necessary social functions, charity galas, business dinners, family events. We would present as a married couple to the outside world. In private, you would have your own bedroom, your own space, your own life. I have no interest in... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Imposing on your personal boundaries. This is purely a business arrangement. And after a year? Divorce, amicable, quiet, with a pre-negotiated settlement. You leave with your money, your mother's health restored, and your freedom intact. It was too good to be true. It had to be. But Maya looked into Adrian Blackwell's storm-gray eyes and saw only cold, calculating honesty. He needed something from her. Yes. But he was offering her the only thing that mattered. Her mother's life. 1 year, she whispered. And my mother gets treatment immediately? Tomorrow? Tonight, if you agree right now. I'll have my medical team at Chicago General within the hour. Maya closed her eyes, saw her mother's face, heard her mother's voice from their last conversation. Baby, I don't want you to sacrifice everything for me. Live your life. Be happy. But how could she be happy if her mother died? How could she live with herself if she didn't take this chance? Okay, Maya said, opening her eyes. Yes, I'll marry you. Adrian's smile widened. Not warm, exactly, but satisfied, like a chess player who'd just executed a particularly elegant move. Excellent choice, Dr. Torres. Lucas, take us back to my office. We have paperwork to sign. As the Mercedes pulled away from the curb, Maya watched Chicago General Hospital disappear in the rain-streaked window. She didn't know it yet, but getting into the wrong car was about to become the most right thing that had ever happened to her. Adrian Blackwell's office occupied the entire top floor of the Blackwell Pharmaceuticals Tower, a gleaming monument to steel and glass that dominated Chicago's financial district. Maya had seen it from a distance, of course. It was impossible to miss, but she'd never imagined she'd be inside it, let alone signing a marriage contract at 11 o'clock at night, while still wearing soaking wet scrubs. Coffee? Adrian asked, shrugging off his suit jacket and draping it over his chair with the casual elegance of someone who'd never had to worry about dry cleaning bills. I've had 8 cups today already, Maya said, then reconsidered as exhaustion hit her in a fresh wave. Yes, please. He smiled, a real smile this time, not the calculating expression from the car. Cream and sugar? Black. 2 shots of espresso if you have it. A woman after my own heart. Adrian moved to a sophisticated coffee machine that probably cost more than Maya's car and began preparing 2 cups with the ease of someone who'd done this many times. My lawyer is drawing up the contracts now. It should take about an hour. In the meantime, I thought we should discuss the logistics of our arrangement. Logistics? Maya repeated, accepting the coffee he handed her. It was perfect. Strong, hot, exactly what she needed. You mean the part where we convinced the world we're madly in love when we met 3 hours ago? Precisely. We'll need a believable backstory. I'm thinking we met at a medical charity gala 6 months ago, hit it off immediately, and have been dating in secret ever since. The secrecy explains why no one knows about you. And the rushed wedding? Your mother's diagnosis. We decided life's too short to wait. People will think it's romantic. The CEO falling so hard for a brilliant doctor that he can't imagine waiting another day. Maya raised an eyebrow. You've thought this through. I think everything through, Dr. Torres. It's why I run a successful company. Adrian sat across from her, coffee in hand, and Maya was struck by how comfortable he seemed in this strange situation, like proposing marriage to strangers was just another Tuesday. Now, I need to know about you. Family, background, anything that might come up in conversation. We need our stories to align. Not much to tell. Only child. Mother's name is Elena Torres, former research chemist. Father died when I was 8, heart attack. Mom raised me alone, worked 3 jobs to put me through school. I went to Northwestern for undergrad, then University of Chicago for medical school. I'm in my 3rd year of surgical residency at Chicago General. No serious relationships, no scandals, no skeletons in the closet. Adrian nodded, absorbing the information. My turn. Only child as well. Parents died in a car accident when I was 21. I was in my senior year at Harvard. My grandfather raised me after that, taught me the business, groomed me to take over. He died 2 years ago and left me the company, but with the stipulation that I marry by 35. He was traditional. Believed family was everything. And you don't? I believe in results, Dr. Torres. Family is nice in theory, complicated in practice. My cousin Victoria has been trying to undermine me since the day my grandfather died, convinced she'd be a better CEO. The marriage clause in the will was his way of ensuring stability. He thought a married man would be more settled, more focused. Instead, it just gave Victoria a deadline to work toward. There was something in his voice, a hint of old pain, carefully controlled. Maya filed it away for later consideration. What happens if she finds out our marriage isn't real? She asked. She won't. As long as we're legally married before my birthday and remain married for the required period, the will's conditions are satisfied. After that, divorce is permitted. Adrian set down his coffee. But we need to be convincing, Maya. That means you'll need to move into my penthouse tomorrow, learn enough about my life to answer questions, and be prepared to play the role of devoted wife in public. And in private? In private, we can be honest. This is a business arrangement. I won't expect anything from you beyond what's stated in the contract. A knock on the door interrupted them. A woman in her 50s entered, carrying a stack of papers thick enough to be a novel. Mr. Blackwell, the contracts are ready, she said, eyeing Maya with barely concealed curiosity. Shall I review the terms? Please. Maya, this is Patricia Chen, my head legal counsel. Patricia, this is Dr. Maya Torres, my fiancée. Patricia's professional mask slipped for just a moment, a flash of surprise quickly controlled. I see. Congratulations to you both. Dr. Torres, I've prepared a comprehensive prenuptial agreement, as well as the terms of your arrangement with Mr. Blackwell. Shall we begin? The next hour passed in a blur of legal jargon. Maya tried to follow along, but exhaustion and caffeine were warring in her system, making concentration difficult. The key points emerged through the fog. 1 year of marriage, $1 million paid in monthly installments. immediate medical treatment for her mother, separate living quarters within Adrian's penthouse, public appearances as needed, and a clean divorce at the end with no claims on either side. "There's one additional clause," Patricia said, hesitating slightly. "Mr. Blackwell insisted on including a provision for your mother's continuing care even after the divorce. If the experimental treatment is successful but requires maintenance medication, Blackwell Pharmaceuticals will provide it at no cost for the remainder of her life." Maya looked up sharply at Adrian. "That's not necessary. We agreed on 1 year." "It's insurance," Adrian interrupted. "Your mother's health shouldn't be held hostage to our arrangement. This way, you never have to worry about continuing costs." It was a kind gesture. More than kind. It was thoughtful in a way that didn't fit with the cold, calculating businessman who'd proposed marriage in a car. Maya felt something shift in her chest, a dangerous warmth that had no place in a business arrangement. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen where you'll be living." Adrian stood, offering his hand. "The penthouse is about 20 minutes from here. Lucas can take you home to pack, but given the hour, I'd suggest staying at the penthouse tonight. I'll have my assistant arrange for your belongings to be collected tomorrow." Maya looked at his outstretched hand. This was it. The point of no return. If she took his hand, if she signed these papers, she was committing to a year of her life with a man she'd known for less than 4 hours. But her mother would live. That was all that mattered. She took his hand. Adrian Blackwell's penthouse occupied the entire 50th floor of the Aqua Tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Chicago's skyline and Lake Michigan beyond. Maya stood in the entrance, still wearing her damp scrubs, and felt like she'd stepped into a different universe. Everything was expensive. Not just expensive, tasteful. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and white, abstract art that was probably worth more than her student loans, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. It was beautiful, sophisticated, and utterly impersonal. Like a hotel suite, not a home. "Your room is this way," Adrian said, leading her down a hallway. "I've had it prepared with essentials, but you can redecorate however you'd like. This is your space for the next year." He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than Maya's entire apartment. King-sized bed, ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub, a walk-in closet that currently stood empty. The windows looked out over the lake, the water dark and infinite under the cloudy night sky. "It's beautiful," Maya said honestly. "The bathroom is stocked with toiletries. There are clothes in the closet. I had my assistant guess your size, but if anything doesn't fit, we'll have it corrected tomorrow." Adrian checked his watch. "It's nearly 1 a.m. You should rest. We have a busy day tomorrow. Blood tests for the marriage license, meeting with my medical team about your mother's treatment, and dinner with my board of directors to announce our engagement." Maya's head spun. "That's all happening tomorrow?" "The clock is ticking. My birthday is in 20 days. We need to move quickly." He paused at the door. "Maya, I know this is overwhelming. If you need anything at all, my room is at the end of the hall. Don't hesitate." He left before she could respond, and Maya was alone in her new temporary home. She should have showered. Should have changed into the expensive silk pajamas she found in the closet. Instead, she collapsed onto the bed, pulled out her phone, finally charged using a cable she'd found in the nightstand, and called the one person who deserved to know what was happening. "Maya?" Her mother's voice was weak but alert. "Baby, it's so late. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, Mom. Something's right. I think. I don't know." Maya pressed her free hand to her forehead. "Mom, I'm getting married." Silence. Then, "What?" "I'm getting married. To Adrian Blackwell. He's the CEO of Blackwell Pharmaceuticals, and he's arranged for you to receive the experimental treatment. Starting tomorrow." Maya, Slow down. Who is Adrian Blackwell? How long have you been dating? Why didn't you tell me? It's complicated, Mom. But I need you to trust me. This is going to save your life. Baby, I don't want you to sacrifice everything for me. I'm not sacrificing. I'm choosing. You're my mother. You worked 3 jobs to put me through school. You gave up everything for me. Let me do this for you. She heard her mother's soft sob through the phone. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? Maya thought of Adrian's storm-gray eyes, his calculating smile, the way he'd looked at her in the car like she was a puzzle worth solving. Yes, I'm sure. After they hung up, Maya finally showered, washing away the hospital smell and the rain and the remnants of her old life. When she emerged, she found a note that had been slipped under her door. Tomorrow will be intense. Rest while you can. Amaya climbed into the enormous bed surrounded by 1,000 thread-count sheets that felt like clouds, and stared out at the Chicago skyline. Somewhere out there was her mother, dying in a hospital bed. Somewhere out there was her old apartment, her old life, the version of herself who'd been drowning in impossibility. That Maya Torres was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who'd gotten into the wrong car and emerged engaged to a billionaire. She should have been terrified, should have been questioning every decision that led to this moment. Instead, inexplicably, she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in months. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover and the smell of fresh coffee. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The car, the proposal, the contract. She was engaged to Adrian Blackwell. Good morning. The man himself appeared in her doorway, already dressed in a crisp suit, holding a coffee mug. I thought you might need this. We have an appointment at the courthouse in 2 hours for the marriage license, then lunch with my medical team to discuss your mother's treatment protocol. Maya sat up, suddenly aware that she was wearing only the silk pajamas. Her hair was a disaster, and she had no makeup. Adrian, meanwhile, looked like he'd stepped out of GQ magazine. I'll need more than 2 hours to look presentable, she said. You look fine. I look like I was hit by a truck. An attractive truck. Adrian set the coffee on her nightstand. But if you'd like help, I've arranged for a stylist to meet us at 11. Hair, makeup, clothing consultation. We need you to look the part of a CEO's fiancé. Right. The part. Because this was all pretend. What should I wear to the courthouse? Maya asked. Something simple. We're not making a spectacle of the legal paperwork. The public announcement comes later, after you've been prepared. The word stung more than it should have. Prepared. Like she was a project that needed completing. But Maya pushed down her pride and nodded. Give me 30 minutes. She showered again, this time properly, and dressed in the nicest clothes from the closet, a simple cream blouse and navy pants that fit surprisingly well. When she emerged, she found Adrian in the kitchen, working on his laptop while simultaneously eating toast, like this was any normal morning. Better? She asked. He looked up and something flickered in his eyes, there and gone too quickly to interpret. Much. Though I was serious before. You looked fine. You're a terrible liar. Actually, I'm an excellent liar. That's how I survived in this business. But I wasn't lying about that. Adrian closed his laptop. Ready to go become my legal wife? The courthouse visit was surprisingly anticlimactic. They filled out forms, provided identification, submitted to blood tests, and were told their marriage license would be ready in 3 days. The clerk barely looked at them, bored by the steady stream of couples making life-altering decisions in a government building that smelled like floor cleaner and desperation. That's it? Maya asked as they left. No waiting period? No counseling? This is Illinois. 3-day waiting period between license and ceremony. No blood test results required anymore despite taking them. No mandatory counseling. We could be married by the end of the week if we wanted. And do we? Want to be married by the end of the week? Adrian guided her toward the waiting car. I was thinking something slightly more elaborate. A small ceremony. 50 guests. Enough to make it believable. Saturday evening. That gives us 5 days to prepare. 5 days, Maya repeated faintly. Is that a problem? Everything was a problem. This was moving at light speed, and Maya was struggling to keep up. But she'd agreed to this, had signed the papers. There was no backing out now. No, she said. 5 days is fine. The stylist meeting was less fine. The woman, Genevieve, pronounced with an emphasis that suggested Maya should know who she was, looked at Maya like she was a fixer-upper project on a home renovation show. Oh, honey, Genevieve said, circling Maya like a predator. We have work to do. 4 hours later, Maya barely recognized herself. Her naturally curly hair had been blown out, trimmed, and styled into something sleek and sophisticated. Her skin glowed thanks to products with names she couldn't pronounce. And she'd been fitted for an entire wardrobe of designer clothes that probably cost more than her annual salary. Much better, Genevieve declared. Now you look like someone who belongs on Adrian Blackwell's arm. The words were meant as a compliment, but they felt like an indictment. Maya Torres, the broke resident, needed 4 hours of professional help to look worthy of her fake fiancé. But when she saw Adrian's face as she emerged from the styling session, something shifted. His expression, carefully controlled as always, showed a crack of genuine surprise. Maybe even appreciation. Wow, he said simply. Too much? Maya asked, suddenly self-conscious. No. Perfect. You look... He seemed to struggle for words, which was surprising for someone usually so articulate. You look like yourself. Just polished. It was the first genuine compliment he'd given her, and Maya hated how much it affected her. This was business. She couldn't let her guard down just because he had nice eyes and occasionally said thoughtful things. Thank you, she said professionally. Now, you mentioned meeting with your medical team? The meeting with Adrian's medical team happened in a private conference room at Blackwell Pharmaceuticals, with 5 of the country's top oncologists presenting their proposed treatment protocol for Elena Torres. Maya listened, asked questions, and slowly felt hope. Real, terrifying hope begin to bloom in her chest. The experimental treatment shows a 78% response rate in patients with your mother's specific cancer profile, Dr. Sarah Chen explained, pulling up scans and charts. We'd begin with an aggressive chemotherapy regimen to shrink the tumors, followed by the targeted therapy. The side effects will be significant: nausea, fatigue, hair loss, but manageable. If she responds as we expect, we could see measurable improvement within 3 months. And if she doesn't respond? Maya asked, her medical training demanding she consider all outcomes. Then we adjust. We have backup protocols, alternative treatments. Dr. Torres, I want to be clear. This isn't a guarantee, but it's the best chance your mother has. Maya looked at Adrian, who'd sat quietly through the entire presentation. You're really doing this? All of this? I told you I would. But why? The contract is signed. You're getting what you need. You could have given her standard treatment? Something cheaper? I could have, Adrian agreed. But I said I'd give her the best care available. I keep my promises, Maya. Something in his voice made Maya wonder what promises had been broken in his past to make him so adamant about keeping his own. That afternoon, Maya visited her mother in the hospital, this time accompanied by Adrian's entire medical team. Elena Torres looked small and frail in the hospital bed, but her eyes were sharp as they took in Maya's transformed appearance. Look at you, Elena said softly. You look beautiful, baby. It's just makeup, Mom. The important thing is, The doctors. Mom, this is Dr. Chen. She's going to oversee your treatment. The next hour passed in a blur of medical consultations. Maya watched her mother's face transform from resignation to cautious hope as the doctors explained the treatment protocol, the success rates, the plan to start immediately. Why? Elena asked finally, looking at the team assembled around her bed. Why would Blackwell Pharmaceuticals do this for me? I'm nobody. I can't afford. Your daughter is marrying Adrian Blackwell, Dr. Chen said gently. He's ensuring you receive the best care possible. That's what family does. Elena's eyes found Maya's across the room. Maya saw the question there, the concern, the motherly instinct that knew something wasn't quite right about this whirlwind romance. But Elena also saw the hope, the chance, and she was smart enough not to sabotage it. Thank you, Elena whispered. Thank you all so much. After the doctors left, Maya sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hand like she had so many times in the past months. Tell me the truth, Elena said quietly, about Adrian Blackwell, about this marriage. Maya had prepared a lie, had rehearsed the story about meeting at a charity gala, falling in love, rushing the wedding because of the diagnosis. But sitting here, holding her mother's frail hand, she couldn't do it. It's complicated, Mom. Complicated means you're lying to protect me. I'm not lying. I'm just not telling you everything. Maya squeezed her mother's hand. But I need you to trust me. This is going to save your life. That's all that matters. Elena studied her daughter's face for a long moment. You're falling for him, aren't you? Or you're going to fall for him. I can see it in your eyes when you look at him. Mom, that's not... I've been married, Maya. I know what attraction looks like. And I saw the way he looked at you when he thought no one was watching, like you were the most interesting thing in the room. He's my fiancé. Of course he looks at me. No, baby. He looks at you like you're a puzzle he desperately wants to solve. That's a dangerous look. That's how your father used to look at me. Elena's eyes grew distant. Just promise me something. Promise that whatever this arrangement is, you won't lose yourself in it. You're worth more than any marriage of convenience. Maya froze. How did you? I'm dying, not stupid. A CEO I've never heard of suddenly proposes to my daughter and arranges for experimental treatment that costs more than most people make in a lifetime. Either he's genuinely in love, which seems unlikely given your complete lack of relationship history, or this is a business arrangement. Elena smiled weakly. I'm guessing the latter, and I'm guessing you did it for me. Mom, don't apologize, don't explain. Just promise me you'll protect your heart. Because men like Adrian Blackwell, powerful, wealthy, used to getting what they want, they're dangerous even when they don't mean to be. Maya wanted to argue, wanted to insist this was purely business, that her heart was safe, that she was in complete control, but she'd never been able to lie to her mother. I promise, she said instead. I'll be careful. Elena nodded, satisfied. Good. Now tell me about this wedding. If I'm going to watch my daughter marry a billionaire, I want to know I'll look presentable. They spent the next hour discussing wedding details. Flowers, dress options, guest lists. Elena's energy flagged quickly, exhaustion claiming her before the conversation was finished. Maya stayed until her mother fell asleep, then slipped out to find Adrian waiting in the hallway. How long have you been out here? Maya asked. Long enough. Your mother's sharp. She figured it out. The real reason for our marriage. Adrian's expression didn't change. Does she disapprove? She's worried I'll get hurt. She thinks I'm going to fall for you. Maya laughed, the sound brittle. I told her that was ridiculous. Is it? Adrian asked quietly. The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. Maya met his storm-gray eyes and saw something there she couldn't quite identify. Curiosity, maybe, or challenge. Daring her to be honest. Yes, Maya said firmly. This is business. I won't forget that. Good. But Adrian's voice lacked conviction. The wedding is Saturday. My assistant sent you the preliminary guest list. 50 people, mostly business associates and family. We'll have the ceremony at my grandfather's estate in Lake Forest. My cousin Victoria will be there. She's difficult. Be prepared. Difficult how? She'll try to find cracks in our story. Try to prove the marriage is fake. She's been looking for any excuse to challenge my inheritance. Adrian's jaw tightened. Don't let her get to you. She's manipulative, cruel when she wants to be, but she's also the only family I have left. There was pain in those words. Carefully hidden but present. Maya found herself wanting to ask about it, to understand what had shaped this controlled, calculating man. But before she could, his phone rang. I need to take this, Adrian said, already turning away. Lucas will drive you back to the penthouse. I'll be late. Board meeting that will probably run until midnight. Don't wait up. He was gone before Maya could respond, leaving her alone in the hospital corridor with more questions than answers. The next 5 days passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Maya signed more papers than she'd ever seen in her life. Insurance documents, bank accounts, legal authorizations. She was fitted for a wedding dress, a stunning creation of silk and lace that cost more than her entire education. She met with wedding planners, florists, caterers, all speaking a language of luxury she barely understood. And through it all, Adrian was increasingly absent. Late meetings, early calls, constant texts that he'd be delayed. Maya told herself it didn't matter. This was business. They weren't a real couple. But she couldn't shake her mother's words. You're falling for him. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather, crisp autumn air, brilliant sunshine, the kind of day that made you believe in new beginnings. Maya stood in front of the mirror in the Lake Forest Estate's bridal suite, staring at her reflection and barely recognizing herself. The woman in the mirror looked like someone from a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect dress. The kind of bride who belonged with someone like Adrian Blackwell. But underneath the perfection, Maya felt like a fraud. You look beautiful, said a voice from the doorway. Maya turned to find a tall, elegant woman in her early 30s, with the kind of sharp features that suggested she was related to Adrian. I'm Victoria Blackwell, Adrian's cousin. Oh, Maya said, immediately on guard. It's nice to meet you. Is it? Victoria moved into the room with predatory grace. Tell me, Maya, may I call you Maya? How exactly did you meet my cousin? At a charity gala 6 months ago. Funny, I've attended every charity event with Adrian for the past 3 years. I don't remember seeing you at any of them. It was a small event, medical research funding. Maybe you weren't there. Victoria smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. Or maybe you weren't either. Tell me the truth, and I'll find out eventually. So you might as well save us both time. What's the real reason Adrian is marrying you? Maya met Victoria's calculating gaze with one of her own. Because he loves me. Please. Adrian doesn't love anyone. He's incapable of it. His parents died when he was barely an adult. His grandfather was a tyrant who valued business over family, and he's spent his entire life proving he doesn't need anyone. Victoria stepped closer. So I'll ask again. What are you really getting out of this marriage? Money? Fame? Access to his fortune? His love, Maya repeated, her voice steady despite her racing heart. That's all I want. That's all I need. You're either an incredible liar or a naive fool. Maybe I'm both. Victoria studied her for a long moment, then laughed. You know what? Maybe you'll last longer than I thought. But let me give you some advice, Maya. When this marriage inevitably falls apart, when Adrian shows you his true colors and you realize you were just another acquisition, Remember that I offered you a way out. My number is in your phone. Use it when you need it." She left before Maya could respond, and Maya sank onto the vintage chair, her hands shaking. 5 minutes until the ceremony, and she was already being warned about her groom's true nature. A knock on the door made her jump. "It's me," Adrian's voice called. "Can I come in?" "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony. Bad luck." "We're already tempting fate with this entire arrangement." "What's a little more bad luck?" He opened the door and Maya heard his breath catch. "Maya, you look like someone spent thousands of dollars transforming me?" "Beautiful. You look beautiful." Adrian stepped into the room, impossibly handsome in his tuxedo. "I wanted to check on you before we go through with this. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you haven't changed your mind. Your cousin thinks this marriage is a terrible idea. Victoria thinks everything I do is a terrible idea. That's her defining characteristic." Adrian moved closer. "Did she threaten you?" "More like warned me. Said you're incapable of love, that I'm just another acquisition." "She's probably right." The admission stung more than it should have. Maya looked up at him, searching his face for something. Regret? Humor? Anything other than that carefully controlled expression. "Are you?" she asked softly. "Incapable of love?" "I don't know. I've never tried." Adrian reached out, hesitating just before touching her face, then let his hand drop. "But Maya, regardless of whether I can love or not, I can promise you this. I will never deliberately hurt you. This marriage is business, but that doesn't mean I'm callous. You're not an acquisition. You're important." It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't even particularly romantic. But something in his voice, genuine, vulnerable, made Maya's breath catch. "We should go," she said, before she could do something stupid like kiss him. "We're getting married." The ceremony was beautiful in a sterile, perfect way. 50 guests seated in neat rows, string quartet playing classical music, an altar covered in white roses that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. She walked down the aisle alone, not trusting herself to let anyone give her away, and focused on Adrian, waiting at the altar. He was watching her with an intensity that made her stumble slightly, not the calculating look she'd grown used to, but something rawer, hungrier, like he was seeing her, really seeing her, for the first time. The ceremony itself passed in a blur. Standard vows, exchanged rings, the moment when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride." And Maya realized they'd never discussed this part. Adrian leaned in slowly, giving her time to object. His hand cupped her face gently, so gently, and then his lips were on hers, and Maya forgot how to breathe. It was meant to be for show, a performance for the 50 guests watching. But the kiss felt real, achingly, impossibly real. Soft at first, then deeper, like Adrian was trying to communicate something he couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, Maya saw surprise in his eyes, like he hadn't expected to feel anything either. "Ladies and gentlemen," the officiant announced, "I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Adrian Blackwell." The guests applauded. Maya managed to smile, to walk back down the aisle with Adrian's hand in hers, to accept congratulations from people she'd never met who clearly didn't believe this marriage was real. And through it all, she couldn't stop thinking about that kiss. The reception was held in the estate's ballroom, a space so opulent it felt like stepping into a movie. Maya danced with Adrian, their first dance as a married couple, and tried to ignore how right it felt to be in his arms. "You're thinking too hard," Adrian murmured against her ear. "I can practically hear the gears turning." "I'm thinking about the contract, about the year ahead, about how we're going to make this believable when we can barely look at each other without—" She stopped. "Without what?" "Nothing. Forget it." But Adrian wasn't letting it go. His hand tightened slightly on her waist, pulling her closer. Say it. Whatever you're thinking, say it. When we can barely look at each other without wanting things we shouldn't want, Maya finished quietly. Adrian went still. The music swelled around them, other couples twirling past, but Maya felt like they were alone in the world. "And what do you want, Maya?" Adrian asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I want this to be real." The confession escaped before she could stop it. "I know it's stupid. I know it's against everything we agreed on. But that kiss, Adrian, that kiss felt real. It was real. Don't lie to me. Don't pretend this is anything other than business. I'm not." Adrian stopped dancing right there in the middle of the floor, forcing other couples to navigate around them. "Maya, I need to tell you something. About why I really married you. About your mother." "My mother?" Maya's stomach dropped. "What about her?" "Not here. After the reception. I promise I'll explain everything, but you deserve to know the truth." Before Maya could demand answers, Victoria appeared at Adrian's elbow, her smile sharp as glass. "Cousin, you're monopolizing your bride. Mind if I steal her for a dance?" Adrian looked like he wanted to refuse, but protocols demanded he be gracious. "Of course. Maya, I'll find you in a bit." He disappeared into the crowd, leaving Maya alone with Victoria. "Dance with me," Victoria said, not a request. "And let me tell you what you're really married to." Victoria led Maya to a quiet corner of the ballroom, away from the dancing and laughter. "You're wondering why Adrian really married you," Victoria said, without preamble. "Why, out of all the eligible women in Chicago, he chose a broke resident he'd never met. He needed a wife. I needed money. It was convenient. It was calculated, and not just about his inheritance." Victoria pulled out her phone, showing Maya a photo. "Do you recognize this woman?" Maya's breath caught. The photo showed a young woman in a lab coat, maybe late 20s, with Maya's same features, same curly hair, same wide eyes, same bone structure. "Who is that?" "That's your mother, 25 years ago, when she was a research chemist for Blackwell Pharmaceuticals." Victoria swiped to another photo, this time showing the same woman standing beside an older man in a suit. "And that's Adrian's father, Richard Blackwell. They work together on the experimental cancer treatment your mother is currently receiving." Maya's world tilted. "My mother worked for Blackwell Pharmaceuticals?" "More than that. She developed the foundational research for the drug that's saving her life. But when she tried to publish her findings, Richard Blackwell stole her work, put his name on it, and had her fired and blacklisted from the entire pharmaceutical industry." Victoria's voice was cold, clinical. "Your mother spent 20 years working 3 jobs, struggling to survive, because Adrian's father destroyed her career. And now, Adrian is generously saving her life with a treatment based on her own stolen research." The room spun. Maya grabbed the wall for support. "That can't be true. He would have told me. Adrian would have—" "Would have what? Admitted that his family destroyed yours? That he's been tracking your mother for years, waiting for the perfect opportunity to— what? Ease his guilt? Make amends?" Victoria leaned closer. "Maya, Adrian didn't meet you by accident. He's known exactly who you are since the moment you stepped into his car. This entire marriage was orchestrated to give him access to you, to use you for his inheritance, while pretending to save your mother out of generosity." "You're lying." But even as Maya said it, pieces were clicking into place, the way Adrian had known exactly what treatment her mother needed. The speed with which everything had been arranged, the fact that he'd proposed marriage within hours of meeting her. "Am I?" "Ask him yourself. Ask him about Elena Torres, research chemist. Ask him about the patent theft in 1999. Ask him why he's really been so generous." Victoria's smile was triumphant. And when you realize I'm telling the truth, remember? I tried to warn you. She walked away, leaving Maya alone with the revelation crumbling her world. Maya found Adrian in his study, loosening his tie and looking at files on his laptop. He looked up when she entered, his expression softening into something that might have been affection. "There you are. I was looking for—" He stopped, seeing her face. "What's wrong?" "My mother worked for Blackwell Pharmaceuticals." It wasn't a question. Adrian went very still. "Victoria told you. Is it true? Did your father steal her research?" "Yes." The simple admission hit Maya like a physical blow. "You've known this whole time. You knew who I was before I ever got into your car." "Yes." "Was any of it real?" Maya's voice cracked. "The proposal, the marriage, the treatment. Was any of it real? Or was I just part of some elaborate guilt-driven scheme?" "It's not that simple." "Answer the question." Adrian stood, moving toward her, but Maya backed away. She couldn't let him touch her, couldn't let those storm-gray eyes pull her back in. "I've known about your mother for 3 years," Adrian said quietly. "When I took over as CEO, I started reviewing old cases, looking for any liability issues. I found the patent theft, the evidence that my father had stolen her research and destroyed her career. I've been trying to make it right ever since. By stalking us? By waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and play savior? By trying to fix an injustice? Maya, your mother was brilliant. The work she did? It's saving lives right now. But she never got credit, never got compensation, spent decades struggling because of my father's greed. I couldn't undo that, but I could make sure she received the treatment she needed." "And the marriage? Was that just a convenient excuse?" "At first, yes." Adrian ran a hand through his hair, frustration and something like desperation crossing his face. "I needed a wife. You needed money. It was a solution that benefited both of us. But Maya, don't." She held up a hand. "Don't tell me you developed feelings. Don't pretend this is anything other than what it is. You using me to feel better about your family's crimes. That's not fair." "Fair? Fair?" Maya laughed, the sound bitter. "My mother worked herself to exhaustion for 20 years because your father destroyed her career. I grew up poor, watching her sacrifice everything, never knowing why we struggled when she was so smart, so talented. And you knew. You knew all of it, and you still lied to me. You let me think this was about convenience when really I was just a guilt offering." "You're right." Adrian's admission surprised her. "You're absolutely right. I should have told you from the beginning, but I was afraid you wouldn't accept help if you knew the truth. And Maya, I'm not going to apologize for saving your mother's life, regardless of my motivations. That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" "Because from where I'm standing, your mother is receiving life-saving treatment, you're receiving financial security, and we're both getting what we need from this arrangement. The why shouldn't matter." "The why is the only thing that matters." Maya's voice broke. "Because I was starting to think this could be real. I was starting to think you might actually care about me, not just about assuaging your family's guilt. But I'm just another acquisition, aren't I? Another problem to solve, another wrong to right." Adrian stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he said, very quietly, "Is that really what you think? That you mean nothing to me? What else am I supposed to think?" "You're supposed to think that maybe, just maybe, this started as guilt but became something else. That watching you fight for your patients, sacrifice everything for your mother, refuse to give up even when the mathematics were impossible, that changed me. That you changed me." Adrian took a step closer, and this time Maya didn't back away. "I'm not good at feelings, Maya. I'm good at business, at strategy, at solving problems. But you're not a problem. You're... He stopped, struggling with words again. I'm what? Maya whispered. You're the only real thing in my carefully constructed world. The confession hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Maya wanted to believe it, wanted to trust that the emotion in his eyes was genuine, that this marriage could be more than a business arrangement. But her mother's warning echoed in her mind. Men like Adrian Blackwell are dangerous even when they don't mean to be. I need time, Maya said finally, to process this, to figure out what I want. How much time? I don't know. But Adrian, if we're going to make this work, if there's any chance of this being real, you can't lie to me again. No more secrets. No more convenient omissions. Agreed. No more secrets. Adrian held out his hand. Partners? Maya looked at his outstretched hand, remembering the first time she'd taken it in his car. Everything had changed since then. She'd changed. Partners, she agreed, taking his hand. But as they stood there, hands clasped, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that there were still secrets between them. Things Adrian hadn't told her yet, and she was right. The next 3 months passed in a strange limbo. Maya moved fully into the penthouse, decorated her room, settled into a routine of hospital shifts and society events. She and Adrian maintained their public facade of the perfect newlyweds while privately dancing around each other like boxers in a ring. Her mother's treatment was working. Elena was responding better than anyone had hoped, her tumors shrinking, her strength returning. Maya visited her every day, and every day felt like a miracle. But the distance between Maya and Adrian was growing. He'd honored his promise. No more lies, no more secrets. But he'd also withdrawn, throwing himself into work with an intensity that suggested avoidance. Maya told herself it was fine. They were partners, not lovers. This was still just business. Then Victoria made her move. It started with a phone call to Maya at the hospital. We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on Michigan Avenue in an hour. Come alone. Maya almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity, and the nagging sense that Victoria knew something important, won out. Victoria was waiting at a corner table, 2 coffees already ordered. I'm surprised you came, Victoria said as Maya sat down. I'm surprised you called. I thought we weren't exactly friends. We're not. But we have a common interest. The truth about Adrian Blackwell. Victoria pushed a manila envelope across the table. Open it. Inside were medical records, financial documents, and a series of photographs. Maya's hands shook as she processed what she was seeing. This is evidence that Adrian's heart condition is terminal. He has maybe 5 years left, probably less. And more importantly, Victoria tapped one of the financial documents, evidence that he's been slowly transferring control of Blackwell Pharmaceuticals to a trust in your name. Maya stared at the papers. That's impossible. Why would he? Because he's dying, and he wants to make sure his legacy goes to someone he trusts. Someone who won't sell it off or destroy it. Victoria leaned forward. Maya, Adrian married you for his inheritance, yes. But he's been preparing to leave everything to you when he dies. You're not just a convenient wife. You're his chosen heir. The revelation left Maya speechless. Adrian was dying? And he'd been planning to leave her his entire company? Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. Because you deserve to know what you're really married to. A dying man who's using you to preserve his legacy. And because... Victoria's expression shifted, becoming almost vulnerable. I loved him once. My cousin. Before the money and the power and the corporate games. I loved the boy he used to be, before grief and responsibility turned him into this. And I think maybe you could save him, if you know the truth. Save him from what? From dying alone. from spending his last years as the cold, calculating CEO instead of human. Victoria stood. Do what you want with that information. Confront him. Leave him. I don't care. But at least now you know what you're dealing with. She left, and Maya sat alone with the evidence of her husband's mortality. Maya found Adrian in his office at midnight because, of course, he was still working at midnight. He looked up when she entered, surprise crossing his face. Maya, what are you doing here? I thought you had an early shift. You're dying. Adrian went very still. Victoria. She showed me your medical records, the financial documents, everything. Maya crossed the office to stand in front of his desk. Were you ever going to tell me? Eventually, when the time was right. When would that be? When you collapsed? When you had 6 months left instead of 5 years? Maya's voice rose. We agreed. No more secrets. No more lies. And you've been hiding the fact that you're terminally ill? It's not terminal. It's manageable. With treatment. You're on borrowed time and you know it. Maya sank into the chair across from him. Adrian, why didn't you tell me? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers steepled on the desk. Then, because I didn't want you to stay out of pity. What? I wanted. He stopped, starting again. When we got married, it was business. I accepted that. But over these past 3 months, watching you, being near you, I started wanting something I had no right to want. I started wanting this to be real. And if you knew I was dying, any feelings you developed would be tainted by pity. I couldn't bear that. Maya stared at him, her heart breaking. You idiot. You incredible idiot. Excuse me? Do you really think I'm that shallow? That I'd only care about you because you're dying? Maya stood, leaning across the desk until they were face to face. Adrian, I've been falling for you since that kiss at our wedding. Maybe before. Every time you bring me coffee exactly how I like it. Every time you rearrange your schedule to drive me to see my mother. Every time you pretend not to notice when I steal your hoodies because they're more comfortable than anything I own. Those aren't the actions of a man who sees me as a business arrangement. Maya, I love you, you idiot. Not because you're dying, not because of guilt or pity or any other complicated reason. I love you because you're brilliant and frustrating, and you look at me like I'm the only thing in the world worth paying attention to. She took a shaky breath. But I can't be with someone who keeps hiding the truth from me, even when that truth is hard, especially when it's hard. Adrian stood slowly, moving around the desk until they were inches apart. You love me. That's what you got from that whole speech? You love me, he repeated, wonder in his voice. Maya, I don't deserve. Shut up. She kissed him, hard and desperate, pouring 3 months of longing and frustration and fear into it. Adrian responded immediately, his arms wrapping around her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, he whispered. I think I've loved you since you got into my car, soaking wet and defiant and so impossibly brave. I just didn't know how to tell you. Then tell me now. Tell me everything. No more secrets. So he did. They stayed in his office until dawn, Adrian explaining his heart condition, a genetic defect discovered after his parents died. His prognosis, 5 to 7 years with treatment, maybe more if they developed new therapies. His plans for the company, slowly transitioning control to Maya, teaching her the business, ensuring his legacy continued. And Maya told him her own truths, how scared she'd been, how the contract marriage had started feeling like a cage, how every day she fell a little more in love with him and hated herself for it. I'm afraid, Maya admitted as sunlight began streaming through the windows. What if we only get 5 years? What if it's less? Then we make those 5 years count. We build something real. We stop pretending this is just business. Adrian cupped her face in his hands. Maya, I can't promise you forever, but I can promise you every moment I have left. That's enough, Maya whispered. That's more than enough. They made love in his office as the city woke up around them, and for the first time since their wedding night, everything felt real. Maya stood in front of her medical school auditorium, now as Dr. Maya Torres Blackwell, Chief of Surgery at Chicago General and CEO of Blackwell Pharmaceuticals. The dual roles were exhausting, but she wouldn't have it any other way. And that's my story, she concluded her speech to the first-year medical students. I got into the wrong car on the worst night of my life, and it led me to the man who would become my husband, my partner, and my best friend. Life doesn't always follow the path you expect. Sometimes the detours are the entire point. Applause filled the auditorium. After taking questions, Maya slipped out the side door to find Adrian waiting in the hallway. He looked exactly the same as he had 8 years ago. Well, almost the same. A few more lines around his eyes, a touch of gray at his temples. But his eyes were the same storm gray, still looking at her like she was the most interesting thing in his world. Good speech, he said, falling into step beside her. You've heard it 100 times. And it gets better every time. Maya laughed, linking her arm through his. They'd beaten the odds. 5 years had turned into 8, thanks to advances in cardiac treatment, some developed by Blackwell Pharmaceuticals itself, funded by Maya's determination to save her husband. Adrian's condition was stable, not cured, never cured, but managed. They'd learned to live with the uncertainty, to celebrate every day they had together. Mom called, Adrian said as they walked to the car. She wants to know if we're coming for dinner Sunday. She's making your favorite. Maya smiled. Elena had fully recovered from cancer and now spent her time spoiling her son-in-law and constantly asking when they'd give her grandchildren. Tell her yes. And tell her we have news. Adrian stopped walking. What news? Maya pulled a small ultrasound photo from her pocket and handed it to him. Watched as his expression transformed from confusion to understanding to pure joy. We're pregnant. 10 weeks. I wanted to wait until the first trimester was over to tell anyone, but... She smiled. Surprise? Adrian pulled her into his arms, right there in the hospital corridor, and kissed her with the same intensity as their wedding day. I love you. God, Maya, I love you so much. I love you too. She rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. Looks like getting into the wrong car was the best mistake I ever made. It wasn't the wrong car, Adrian corrected, kissing the top of her head. It was exactly the right car. Just took us a while to figure that out. They stood there for a long moment, two people who'd found each other through chance and circumstance, and the kind of love that defied every logical explanation. Sometimes the wrong turn leads you exactly where you need to be. And sometimes, the best stories start with getting into the wrong car.